maybe that's a part of female hesitancy towards sex, is that women, to differing degrees, are, whether they want to or not, inadvertently sort of receiving the male partner's soul in some way. And do I
Mhm.
want that particular soul penetrating me?
Yeah,
Right.
because you're not really going to be able to meet someone and be naked with someone else unless you're naked with yourself.
The Big Hormone Enneagram.
Let me lay it on the line. I got a little freakiness inside. Let you know that the man has got to deal with it.
Hi, I'm John Lukovich, sexual self-pres, Golden 5 Wing, 458 Trifix.
Hi, I'm David Gray, self-pres sexual 9 with a 1, 974 trifix.
What up? It's Emeka. I'm an 8-wing-7, sexual self-pres with 854 fixes.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I am a self-pres social 3, wing 4, with a 369 trifix. If you like our podcast, guys, make sure you go like and subscribe on the Apple Podcast app. And if you really like us, you should definitely leave us a review.
We realized, at least I realized, that the way that men self-objectifies in terms of, oh, I gotta have the biggest dick, I gotta fuck the longest, and she's gotta have 5 orgasms, that kind of thing is probably not how most women experience sexuality, and has really made me think like, oh shit, we've been getting this whole thing wrong in terms of like what we believe our impact is sexually and what we have to bring to the table.
Yeah, if you guys could spread that message, that would be just golden.
Welcome to Big Hormone Enneagram. We did not release an episode last week because what we ended up recording ended up being way too personal and intimate and deep for public consumption. So
Too
too hot for podcasting. So
Wouldn't you all like to hear it?
For a special price, you can get backdoor access.
For our largest Patreon donations.
The price is your forever.
Your soul.
Your soul.
So we are coming back. We are trying to talk about the same thing on less personal terms, digest what we've been learning and coming upon. And so very roughly, we were just talking about like what real intimate sex is, what goes into that, what are our biases around it, what have we been learning about attraction, chemistry, our personality's attempts to control those things versus what are the real ingredients and elements that lead to intimacy and chemistry, how's that different in men and women, and all this kind of shit. So we are back at it.
Yeah, and then this sparked, some of our own recent personal experiences is what sparked this conversation. And even though we're going to leave that out, that's what brought us here. And hopefully this conversation can be a ongoing thing because there's a lot to unpack from this.
Yeah, like it wasn't just to indulge our personal shit. It's really feels like we're having revelations about sexuality and intimacy and heartfeltness that we thought they'd be useful to people. That wouldn't just be our own thing, self-involvement. That would actually have some genuine use and interest in other people. So, where should we begin?
What is the best way to start this topic without getting too personal? Okay, I can be the anchor because I think I've already discussed my own issues on here, so it's okay. So y'all know that I've been racking my brain about like sort of like what the hell is wrong with me in terms of my dating and sexual experiences, trying to explain why, what's wrong with what I'm doing with dating and why it doesn't seem that I can't get into a relationship. And so I've talked about that before. And the reason for that is because I've just had mysterious events take place with past partners where it seemed like things are going well, but people mysteriously disappear or they feel overwhelmed. And the last attraction that I got involved in, it was going really well. John was there when I met this person, and it was very strong chemistry, but they bailed on it, saying that it was too much, and it wasn't because I was doing anything in particular or saying anything in particular. I was like, there's a certain quality about me that beyond even my own type or anything that I'm doing that is too much, and I don't know. I couldn't figure out what it is, and so recently I was able to had a revelation that what was experienced as too much is the fact that I'm actually showing up. And what I mean by that is that I'm actually energetically getting into who I'm attracted to in a penetrating, intimate way. And although people want this, I think most people would say that they want that kind of intimacy, but most people aren't ready for the vulnerability and the unknown factor of whatever is on the other side, not knowing what's on the other side that comes with that. So I would have these mysterious events where people would be really into me and the chemistry would be strong, and then they'd bail and they'd come back and they'd bail again. And that cycle would continue itself. And I was just left there thinking, I guess something's wrong with me and I'm not supposed to end up with anybody. But recently I was able to end up in a really strong chemistry, strong relationship where my partner is articulating to me that this is this is what's going on, and this is why you know why our chemistry is so transformative. And so for the first time in like a decade, I finally understand what, like, I guess what real chemistry looks like in terms of a penetrating chemistry, and that there's nothing wrong with me. It's just most people aren't actually showing up in their romantic relationships. And I guess the orientation to depth, not just in inner work, but sexually and romantically, is also a thing. And so that just completely changes my whole view on what sexuality is, because I've been judging myself as I'm not fucking well enough, or, you know, she's not coming hard enough, but orgasms are happening and I couldn't figure out why they were running the other way. So this is like, well, what does this say about men? What does this say about the way I was viewing sexuality? I need to, rethink what I believe sexuality is, because I completely whiffed on this whole energetic piece that I believe probably most women are sensing innately. I don't know if that's true, but I don't know, Nancy, I want to hear what you have to say on that, if that's legit or not.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have done that to men where I've like gotten into it and then I just totally ghost them.
Mhm.
I've actually done that mid-sex. I just literally got dressed and walked away.
Damn.
Wow.
I don't regret it either. But
It was that bad?
no, it's not that it was that bad. It had
Oh, so you see,
literally
there I go again, making it
Yeah,
about the
it
dick
had
performance.
nothing
Yep.
to do with the dick performance, honestly. It has everything to do with their energy. And I used to be not very good at judging the energy until we got
Mm.
naked. And then I got, as I grew as a human, and kind of unpacked my trauma around it, I got better at reading actual energies.
Can you pause on that and say
Mhm.
more about what's your experience in terms of reading energies? Like, how are you doing that? Like, what are you picking up on?
Um, Gut reactions.
Okay.
So if something in my body is happening, tuning into that. So there, I will have anxiety on the, no matter who you are typically. So that's not really something to cue into. But like, I'll have certain feelings like in my stomach, or I'll get like a weird fucking face twitch. Like I have to pay attention to my body. If there's something in my body saying nope, then I know it pretty early now. But I didn't
Mm.
used to back then. I just
Mm.
thought it was my anxiety. So I wasn't able to differentiate that, but now I am. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
In the times where I've either had sex or the time where I walked out mid-sex, and like I either dissociated or left or was like, nope. It's because I realized that their energy was dark or threatening or just not something that I wanted in or around me. And
Uh,
that that when I'm like actually mid coitus with someone and I can feel that energy, it's usually like right in my stomach, and it feels and I immediately like shut down. And
Mm.
so it's probably like fucking a corpse would is probably what happens. Um and like I don't know if men notice. I've never been told that they notice. I don't like, so I couldn't speak to their experience. But yeah, it's very much like a almost a trauma response. Is like a okay, bye. I don't exist. And I go somewhere else until they're done. And I remember so many times in my life going, wow, I really wish you would finish already.
Oh wow.
Just like, come on, come on.
I don't think any guy is talking about this. I don't think any guy would talk about experiencing sexual partners this way.
Yeah. Like and I don't think like, it has much to do with their dick or how they do it. It has
Mm,
everything to do with like how they, do foreplay, how they treat me mid-sex, how they are talking to me, their energy, just everything. Because like there's just a lot of men that I've slept with that have like very much a I don't know if you wouldn't murder me vibe.
mm.
And I don't know if that's really like a murder vibe or just me picking up that my energy doesn't fit with their energy. I haven't been able to
Like-
kind of
That your soul is threatened because you're receiving them at a soul level.
right. Yeah, and that's probably more accurate of what it is.
This is incredible to me.
But,
This is so
yeah,
incredible.
tell me what your reactions and impressions are, Emeka.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think on a level, I can innately relate to taking people in, like their energy, like on an attraction level. But I attributed something like that to, I don't know, just being a sexual type or something like that, and I was getting these weird reactions, and I was just thinking it had to do with the act itself, and not to do with the energy exchange, because it's like a lot of times I didn't do anything. I was picked. I was pursued by someone, and we had sex. And I guess through the act of the intimacy that we were having, that the exchange created something that was significant in a way that it's like this was an experience that she either wanted or she didn't want to have again, or she felt overwhelmed by, and I couldn't put my finger on what was going on. And it's like I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but now I'm just sitting here and blown away that this is something about the energy exchange that's going on. And you can't, when if somebody asked you about that, you wouldn't be able to say anything about that. Like what could you say? Oh, that like
It's wrong.
that you got into me, and maybe I don't want you to get into me like that, or I'm not feeling this energy that I got from you. It could be a number of things, but it's on an energetic level, which
Which is
you
very
can't talk about.
nonverbal. Yeah,
Yeah.
nonverbal. Yeah.
Well, and also we just like have such shitty distinctions in our culture around sexuality. So it's just like, oh, it's right or it's not right, or it's like safe or it's not safe. And so first, one thing I want to reinforce for the listener is that I have been there when women have chosen Emeka, and like you might
They aggressively choose
they
Emeka.
aggressively choose Emeka.
Yeah. There's no question.
There's no question that Emeka is radiating like attractive energy that ladies like. It is hilarious and insane,
Yeah. 100%.
So, Emeka's revelations around this, like, I think are really brave, and like, I don't want anybody to get the impression that he's, I don't know, doing something wrong. Like
Yeah, like
he's been
everything's
chosen.
consensual. Yeah.
Yeah, and fast. They choose him fast.
Yeah. It's very much like a body, like, oh, okay, yes.
him. And I've seen it multiple times, and it's beautiful to watch. But
Yes.
yeah, like, so one of the things that has been like, I do that NPL, the non-player lifestyle.
Which is ironic because out of all the people, I feel like I would have expected player lifestyle out of you
Oh, really?
before I knew you. Yeah.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I get that a lot, actually.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know why.
I'm a long-term monogamy fella.
So cute.
But I don't know. So there's a couple things coming to me. Like, for one, I have my own big fears around or insecurities around my attractiveness and attractiveness level because like I don't really feel chosen. Like I don't get the honing target thing that Emeka gets. And so I often do think like I have this self image of being a Nosferatu, basically.
Even
And
though that has no bearing on reality whatsoever.
yeah,
Yeah.
just this like lecherous vampiric look
No.
like rat boy.
No.
Nope. And I think
Extremely inaccurate.
I think maybe like my that self attitude has contributed to maybe like some of the ways I felt overlooked or things like that. But one of the things that I've like that sort of parallel with Emeka is I have also a lot of neurotic energy around sexuality and my sexual attractiveness. Like I am a real giver and pleaser, and that I take myself to be very present during sex because it's a very very central part of everything for me. And what I think that Emeka and I've been learning from different points of view is that it is, I guess, like what Emeka often calls soul level attraction, and how much it's out of the hands of the personality to manage. And Emeka used the term self objectification. How much as men, at least you and I can't speak to all men, but objectify ourselves as like fuck machines, as big dicks, as being able to go several rounds, and like how many orgasms were achieved and stuff like this. And like I watching videos for like, all right, where's the G spot, where's the A spot, where's the like like
Learning the mechanics of sex,
learning the mechanics,
the
but
right angles.
yeah,
That's
but
different for every woman.
Yes,
It
it is,
is,
but you gotta
yes.
learn.
It's
Yeah.
You gotta
very
learn which one it is.
confusing. As a woman, it changes on a minute by minute basis, which is very inconvenient. Anyway, go ahead.
But one of the things that distinctions that was helpful in our last conversation, and it's been helpful for me, is thinking about sexuality in terms of like introverted sexuality and extroverted sexuality. What I mean by that is not necessarily like an extrovert has sex and an introvert has sex. I'm talking kind of like in the way that
Yeah.
sort of the Jungian cognitive functions are processed in an external way and an internal way. And
Mhm.
how I think our culture is really polarized over these two ways, and how people have different shades of both. And so like to speak extroverted sexuality would reference sort of the economy of sexual energy that people are all participate in. And what I mean is like how everybody's kind of, not everybody, but most people are sort of looking to fuck, and they're checking
Mhm.
each other out. And they like especially our generation is just like people fuck really easily. They hook up, they do all this different stuff, and it's very function based sexuality, and it's very like testing out the mechanic kind of sexuality. And that view of sexuality is pretty much all our culture generally at large recognizes. And so some people may have a more extroverted sexuality, but they're not there's no counterbalance of what an introverted sexuality could be to enhance the extroverted sexuality, and vice versa. So like the introverted sexuality, it's sort of like the mystical losing self dimension of sexuality that and it's happening on an introvert or internal level, like the inner transformational aspect of sexuality. I
Mm.
think a lot of people say they're interested in this or they speak to it, but they don't have a lot of either they don't know the map, so to speak, to get there, or how to identify it, or how to bring that level of self to a sexual experience. Or they have that, but maybe they don't have the map for how to find a compatible partner to experience that level of transformational sexuality with. Because I think more than the extroverted point of view, the introverted point of view really does require a lot of interpersonal chemistry. And it's a bit more important who your partner is than the extroverted view. And I think that often our only exposure to the quote unquote introverted sexuality point of view is like the religious attitude to sexuality, which is almost entirely, it's like sexuality is like very mystical. It requires your only like a soulmate or partner or spouse. And it's like it's so unbalanced with an extroverted view that it's like gets rigid and calcified and fearful, and that sex that sex with other people, like people who aren't your like soulmate, so to speak, is going to ruin your sexuality. And so, you need a bit of a both. You need a bit of an extroverted point of view and an introverted point of view. If you're too far on the introverted point of view, which I think I have been in my life, it gets this overly mystical kind of thing where, that like, and I think like a lot of my jealousy shows up in this way where it's sort of like, oh, all sexuality has to be this soul level
Yeah.
exchange.
Yeah. You're assuming that everyone is having introverted sex.
Right. And I've realized I have been looking, my attraction map or radar has been from that viewpoint.
Mhm.
Like I obviously find bodies and stuff very attractive, but like I will almost discount chemistry that isn't on like a rip you apart level.
And I should say this, that as an assertive type, I can get out there and do the extroverted sexuality thing. But I guess what I had to discover about myself is that when it comes to like the one to one, the private doing of it, I mean, I've definitely had like extroverted just fucking sex, but probably I'm having, if the chemistry's there, like if I'm really into somebody, then it's going to be introverted sex. And what I learned through, this revelation is that most people will go their whole lives without having any frame of reference for that experience. And whether you want that or not, it's kind of like the shock point of maybe experiencing like an inner depth experience of recognizing what your type is and like how that would fuck you up, but like be in a good way, depending on how you look at it. And so, like being energetically met by someone you're really into, a lot of people feel like they'd want that, but it's incredible, but also terrifying because um, there's an unknown factor in terms of being able to step over the ledge and not know what's on the other side. And but you're going there with this other person that you're energetically merging with. And so to throw that into sexuality, that's beyond an orgasm. That's beyond positions. That's beyond how big your dick is and how wet somebody is. Like I didn't understand that this was what women were reacting to with me, is their energetic responses to me and the overwhelm that you know I just thought maybe it's like maybe I'm just like catching feelings too soon or something. But it's like it's not necessarily, I'm not texting people too much or anything like that. It's like that experience was a lot, like in a sense that I didn't expect. Maybe it's like, oh, we're gonna have a one night stand, but I didn't expect this dude to get all up in my heart space. Like I didn't
And
expect him to actually like seem to give a fuck about me. I thought he was an asshole, but he actually like, like that weird thing of
Mhm.
being met. But it's like, oh, maybe I want this, but it's like, ah, fuck, I'm not even sure if I even. Not. I kept hearing, I'm not ready for this. I'm like, I didn't propose to you. I didn't ask you to be my girlfriend. What are you talking about?
we're just fucking.
So I
Well,
was approaching things in an extroverted way. I've been having one night stands, but the actual experience of what I was doing was introverted, which is like a
right.
mixed message of I thought we were just going to hook up, but it didn't actually turn out that way. So that's why nobody wanted to see me again.
And I think I would suspect that maybe it's not divided along male and female, but at least like the cultural attitude that males are encouraged to adopt is
Yes.
an extroverted one for
Yeah.
sure. And I think that women may have more of a proclivity toward the introversion or a sensitivity to it. But like off like that they may see that the dominant mode of the culture is this extroverted approach and adopt it for a while, trying to make kind of like what Emeka has been doing, like try to make it work on an introverted level. And so I think that at least bringing these distinctions to sexuality is really important because like on the extrovert point of view, it's like are you hot and do you want to fuck? Which is like great, like that's fine. But then like what are the requirements for more of an introverted sexual experience, and like what do we need to be in touch with in ourselves to find, to first of all recognize what our template, our what we're needing to be met with is, and then how do we find what we want to be met with in the world.
Mhm.
And this is like bringing up a lot of thoughts for me. Um, so it's making me realize that the men that like made me feel unsafe or like I wanted to leave or I was like not down with, um, it's almost like they were only on the body level and there was no spiritual
Mhm.
shit. And like
Mhm.
I've had one nights or well, I've had like fuck buddies where there was more of like an energy connection. So I think like it's totally possible, like to do that.
Hmm.
And it was good. I mean, it was really fun. Um, but yeah, I think the issue I had with those men was they weren't showing up. And so I could feel that they were only on a body level. And like, I don't stay on a body level. So
Hmm.
it was very much like, I'm going to go somewhere that you're not going to go. So I'm just going to keep myself from going there because, like, you're not meeting me there, if that makes sense. But then on the flip side, like when I did sex work, men who t- only one of my clients wasn't like this. Men would show up on an emotional and spiritual level with sex work because they're fucking paying for it. So they're like, I'm gonna get
That's
everything I can.
really interesting. What the
Yeah,
fuck?
so
It
like
is.
that's a part of why I enjoyed sex work because I was like these men like showed up and they were there.
What?
And yeah, only one man didn't do
Well,
that and then he refused to pay me. So
yeah, they're not
Whoa.
they're not getting it like with their wife or whatever. They're
Oh,
yeah,
Mm.
so I'm their outlet.
that's
Yeah.
really fucking interesting. You would think that
Yeah.
someone would be most compartmentalized with a sex worker. That's
Yeah, that's why I felt like more safe with men who paid me.
If you've made it this far, you're digging this conversation, and we want to know what you think. So we want you to call the Love Line 323-696-0647 and let us know what you think. And the next time we have this discussion that we will continue to have, we'll include your comments on the call.
And I think I said this to you, John, but it's shocking when you get into a good relationship with like good fucking, you realize how many people are in shit relationships. Just
Mhm.
like
Yes.
90% of the population. Like I have so
Oh
many
yeah.
friends where I'm like, "Ugh." Ugh.
It's also like the distinction on what I thought good sex meant.
Yep.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
I thought good sex meant, you're comfortable with each other's bodies. There's like a good physical chemistry, and
You
you,
come.
yeah, you find the right rhythm with each other, and you make each other come. And but this is about the energetic. Like there's an energetic thing here that you want to get so into somebody that that's the thing that makes the sex good.
Yeah.
And I just didn't get that.
One thing too about this is one thing you may be doing, for example, Emeka, is in these women where you kind of couldn't tell why they weren't coming back or whatever, is you might have been calling up in their soul the masculine to penetrate you.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're not ready for it. You know what I mean? So that it's a real, yin yang symbol intertwining,
Yeah, because it's
you know,
both. Because I do have a lot of penetrative energy, but it's not necessarily from a what's the word? It's got both that sexual
no.
instinct or whatever has got both masculine and feminine, because it's like I'm inviting you to meet me. And um yeah, I've always just had this energetic experience that people wanted to fuck me, but they didn't actually want to be there in that sort of space, and they were finding ways to avoid it, but still coming back. So I was just perplexed, like, why do you want to do this again?
I mean, because
If
part of what you're saying is you're being affected by them in a sort of
yes,
feminine way, you know,
yes, I'm definitely taking them in, and
receiving.
I
Yeah.
yeah, that's one of the reasons why I would always dread hooking up with something. I think I forgot to say this. I would dread hooking up with people, even though I would still do it, because one, I didn't know how it would go, but I also knew that if I really was into this person, that I couldn't just get them out of my system. I couldn't just like move on to the next person. So if we had, the more
Right.
times we had sex, the more I would need like months to get them out of my system. So it's like, if it doesn't work, I'm going to be left stranded here to deal with what I've taken in. And so it's just kind of like a lot of anxiety and insecurity, like anxiety for me, in terms of like
Mhm.
what's gonna happen, like how's this gonna go? It's just a really important moment. Like it feels
Yeah.
like my life is building up to this act. This
Mhm.
I've got
Okay.
everything is
Yeah.
coming down to this, and it's like,
Okay.
if I don't understand what your reaction means, like I'm just left wondering, am I doing things well or not? And this is completely out of my hand, is what I really realized. It's about the chemistry, it's about the energy.
Well, Nancy, you mentioned how Brian is a better lover than anybody you've ever had.
Yeah.
And like, what elements are there besides his enormous dick?
It's just a gigantic
Just-
dick. He can't even fit it in his pants.
Gigantic horse dick.
Well, so I think my experience is kind of it's almost like he's gentler. So I'm more of like a kind of touched my soul in a way that men
Mm.
haven't in sex or in in sex in anything else. Um so like I don't relate so much to the intensity as I do to like there's something that happens when we have sex that is like holy
Mm-hmm.
to sound kind of cheesy and dramatic. I don't know.
I'm with you.
Yeah, it's just like transcendent. Like I don't
Is it like
um
full acceptance?
yeah, yeah, it is. And
Yeah.
it's like both of us are just there for it and it's
Mhm.
like I don't need to orgasm, but I almost always do because he's really really good. Um but like I see colors.
Mm.
Like I don't even like see through my eyes anymore. Like
Mm.
it's literally like a spiritual experience and it's always fucking blue. I always see blue. Which is my favorite color. Um and there's just sort of like a soul acceptance of just love and wanting to be there and like there's no other place I'd rather be, which is like that's saying a lot for a 3,
Yeah.
you know? Like
Wow.
that's a big
Yeah, yeah.
deal. So,
So what do you think it's in that's in Brian and in you that you meet that in each other, that you're able to bring that out or meet on that level?
I think there's genuine um love, but love isn't quite the right word. It's like care. There's
Mm-hmm.
just like in that moment we'd like die for each other
Mm.
kind of thing.
Mhm.
Like there's just like it's caring for each other. And like we're both in it and there's no question.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like do they feel this way about me? We're both there. Like this is what it's all about.
And I mean, Emeka, that probably tracks with you, right?
Yeah, I mean, uh I guess what I realized is people might project that or from a distance they might project that I'm an asshole or something, enough to have a one night stand with, and then they'd be surprised that, oh shit, he's not. He's actually like here with me. And I've heard girls or women complain about guys doing the jackhammer porn thing, and which doesn't make any sense to me, because it's like you're having sex with a human being, so which who's having a reaction to you. So um I think what I had experienced with one night stands is a lot of times people or would expect me to treat them that way or to fuck them that way. I've actually had girls like asked to be like yeah, wanting me to fuck them that way, or just like treat them worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, if you're into that, and I'm more than happy to oblige. But I think there is a sense of I'm actually here with you, and I give a fuck about what your experience is with me, and maybe that's part of what's freaking people out. Like that's I didn't know that people didn't fuck that way. So if you're actually attracted to someone, so like, why would you treat them like a fucking masturbation object.
Part of what I'm interested in getting at is like how, like, for somebody listening or whoever, like, how would you prepare yourself for being in that space with somebody, like, how, or to meet somebody that you could be in that space with? Because, like, we mentioned earlier, like, a lot of people are in fucking shitty relationships, or they're like in a relationship with somebody that they're really really just friends with, like,
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
They're
yeah.
just roommates.
they're just
Yeah.
really good friends or roommates, or like, and most people are, it's not, I don't think it's just like this is available for anybody. Like, I think you have
Right.
to be, you have to put some kind of work or intention in, or preparedness, and like, and I also think that the person that I've been able to share this most with is, for myself, is like, there was like an instant, like, thing, like there was an instant, it wasn't just attraction, it was like, what's going on, like it
Mhm.
felt like things were changing. And then when the time I spent with Alexandra, it was just like, you know walls shaking, kind of, what the fuck is happening energy, before we had any, we were interacted physically at all. It was just like there was a thing there. But I think that it wasn't just that there was a strong thing. Like, I think that both of us have a very introverted, not just introverted is not the right word, but just like a strong energy and intentionality around meeting another person sexually, and that's listening primarily to the body, because I think that that's a big thing, is that people start to think even emotionally is not always the right place to look
No.
at this,
Yeah.
because emotions are
Yeah.
often so um tainted
Fickle.
by our object relations.
Yeah.
Like, one of the big ways that object relations co-opt both our social instinct and our sexual instinct is, oh, it's a new exciting person that I'm meeting, but oh, the same emotional dynamics from my childhood that are abusive and terrible.
Yeah.
So, making something look new that's actually something old in disguise. And so the emotions can do that, and the mind can start to make lists of like why this person should work and why we should work, and things are actually going to be great if it works. But the body is really like what is awakening first, that can allow the heart and mind to meet on that kind of higher level. But if the body is not choosing, the body has to choose, and it's not just being horny for somebody. It's like the body has to have a direct sensation based choosing, desiring, and needing of a person.
Body is the house of the soul.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I think something that like started my journey towards understanding what good sex and good relationships actually are is just masturbating. Because as a woman, especially, like, I don't know if men need this as much as sexually repressed women, but I didn't know what good felt like until I started masturbating. And like, really, I'm talking like taking care of myself, like fucking lighting candles,
way into it.
baths, like doing
The good
doing the
oils.
thing. Yes. Like being like, all right, this evening is my date with myself, and I am going to take care of myself the way I want someone to take care of me. And like, once you start doing that, I feel like you can start connecting with your body
Hmm.
better, because you're
Mhm.
starting to take care of your body in a way
Mhm.
that it wants to be taken care of. And
Listening to it.
yeah. And so even if like you don't feel like you're in touch with your body, which I have a really hard time with being in touch with my body, getting to that level and intimacy and like thanking it and taking care of it and really giving it what it needs on a sexual level, you can start doing that in actual real time with partners. So that
So-
helped me a lot.
I want to add though, and Nancy, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I've helped women, like, coach them with sexuality too, especially from the point of view of blind spot. And one of the things that uh, feedback I've gotten that's been helpful is like to sort of, as you're saying, Nancy, like explore that energy in oneself and for oneself. Um, Part of that that's been useful is like is women learning to find their own bodies sexy.
Yes,
And
definitely.
like what I had a friend, like dance in front of a mirror,
Yeah.
and like even masturbate in front of a mirror, and like be like, it's like being able to not identify it from a mental point of view of like, oh, I have great legs or whatever, but like to just be able to receive one's own sexual energy. I think then can make it like not a force that can choose, and a force that can know how to guide other partners and to receive it.
Yes.
It's like somebody
And-
learning how to be their own lover.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
telling you, men giving you money for taking dick is a great way to learn how to find yourself sexy. Because they
So,
will
big
pay a
hormone
lot of money.
Big hormone enneagram recommendation: sex work.
Yes,
Become a sex worker.
absolutely. Become a sex worker in a safe way. Take care of yourself. Still a pandemic, but
Sponsored by OnlyFans and MDMA and yeah.
Pornhub.
yeah. If you
you know-
need any tips, you can contact me. I'm totally fine with that.
I've been thinking about this in terms of like what happened in order to make this possible. On one hand, like you can't just have one person who wants this. Like it's kind of a incredible thing when two people want to meet people or to meet each other
Mhm.
in that kind of way. But I don't think that this could have happened for me even 6 or 7 years ago.
Mhm.
I don't think, because I mean, it's been a journey for me, because in my early 20s, I think everyone, when they're young, you think this is what love is and this is how relationships work. And so maybe my first relationship was that. And then I got into my whole phase where I was hooking up and getting into, fucking not being met relationship dynamics. And you sort of close down your heart and you think, oh, I guess this is how people do relationships. So I've had plenty of that too. And then eventually I made a decision that I wanted to be in a serious relationship that was more like the first relationship I had, which is like a full on hard thing. And which meant that I had to stop doing the hookup thing that I was doing, because there's no way to just have sex with people you just met and like you have to compartmentalize your heart from that experience in order to just do that. And I was just not getting anywhere, because I was having sex, hooking up with people, and then getting really hooked into them, and it was, I wasn't really connecting with them for real. So I was like, if I want to get into a relationship, then I have to be honest about what I want and actually show up and put it all on the line. And nothing happened immediately, but I think that orientation, I was getting more intense reactions as the years went on. And it's also reflecting getting involved with inner work in the Enneagram, because I think there's a parallel between really showing up to yourself and your own inner dynamics and being able to show up for someone else. And I think it's interesting that within this group, that energy and that orientation to getting under the skin created this sort of inner depth vortex that me and John ended up in, these incredible chemistries were there. And I think the bedrock of that is this orientation to inner depth with yourself. Being present with yourself means that you now have the capacity to show up in an open-hearted way with someone that you're attracted to. And I don't think this was possible unless I was already there. I'm so like in myself and into like who I am, and I see myself clearly, and I'm just like, here I am. It's kind of like there's a nakedness that I'm showing up with, which is pulling out a nakedness in her, and she's like freaking out that that's happening. So I think it takes a certain kind of person who is even open and willing to be present to themselves, because you're not really going to be able to meet someone and be naked with someone else uh, unless you're naked with yourself, and your partner has to be willing to do that also. And so that's what I think is at the foundation of this being possible. It's like it is incredible and awesome, but it's also transformative, and there's like a series of deaths and rebirths that are, because I mean, this is like you're really mixing in with someone on a soul level. This is not just sex anymore, and you're getting into someone on a soul level, and so there's a lot of risk there, because you're going to lose parts of yourself and gain new parts, and it's going to be transformational, but it's also really vulnerable. And if you're not willing to do that, then it's not going to happen.
Well,
Yeah.
I think you raise a lot of good points, and one of the things I think, at least from a male point of view, um, like men are really in the fucking dark about sexuality, and because it's just like, well, you pull on it and this happens,
Yeah.
um, and but and then there's like these little like memes in our culture, like ideas that float around that like, oh, maybe that's how I should be or approach things, and there's something, like what's coming to mind a lot are these like fucking tantric workshops and like
Oh
these,
yeah.
and there's like this recent guy I listened to on a podcast who's like he's like a total insane seven who's like totally checked out, but he's pretending to be some kind of sex guru or something. And, it's just, and he, like he's just an idiot. And I listen to his self-aggrandizing bullshit, and it's just like you can just get lost in these sort of pseudo tantric ideas. But there is something like one of the memes I'm talking about is like, oh, the man who worships the goddess, right? But there's something in that actually. Like there's
Yeah.
something about having a real genuine inner place and reverence for what you call like feminine energy, and that there's a willingness or an interest in being surrendered to it, and being like like having a genuine awe for like for like what the feminine energy brings. And but it's not cheesy, it's not put on, it's not this I really like like I don't know, I'm wearing my like yoga pants and breathing through one nostril than this nostril. It's like to have like Emeka, like what you're speaking to is like you tried a bunch of shit, it's not working, you're realizing what you really want versus what you can have easily.
Yep.
And how do I be open and willing to receive it, and how do I be real with myself about this is what I actually want? How do I be a little bit heartbroken about it? And how do I wait and discern until somebody can meet me on that body level? And it doesn't mean we're not advocating like don't hook up or whatever, but it's like just be knowledgeable about your own self and sexuality and body. And men, just as much as women, have to get in touch with their own bodies about what they're attracted to, what they're responding to. Because one of the things I'm as a man that surprised me to hear about time and time again from men and women is men might get into a relationship with a woman that they find physically or aesthetically attracted to, but they're not like in that body sexual attracted level. So they can fuck them, they can have sex, they can get excited by them, but that kind of like my body craving this person level is not there, and so they can trick themselves into being with people that they feel so and so about on a certain energetic level. And because every the you're getting hard, you're fucking, you're doing all this kind of stuff, but men also have to be aware of and understanding that attraction comes from the body, and it's not just getting erect, it's not just getting excited, but that there's like another level.
And I need to say this because this was a huge lesson for me, is that there's a way that guys, we operate visually for the most part, in that, I like tits, I like ass, and she's got to have this length of hair. And there's a way, if you're watching porn, like I'm getting hard to this. So you have in your mind, this is what I'm attracted to. And a lot of that does line up to what works sexually, but it's a completely different experience from the in-person body to body arousal that actually happens. It doesn't necessarily line up. And I mean, there's certain things that always have to be there for me to be really into it, but there are also things that um, surprised me, like in terms of this is what I thought visually that I was into, and it looks good and I'm attracted to it, but like actually trying to do it, like it's not doing that amazing sexual, oh my God thing that I thought it was going to do, like the mix of us together. And so I had to learn over the course of the last 5 years or whatever, trying to like get my shit together for, show up the right way for a relationship, is that a lot of what I think and is visually attractive to me and looks good on paper doesn't actually work sexually, in the act with that person. And there's some kind of disconnect. Whereas when I allowed the chemistry to happen organically and I just listened to what my body was responding to, the most incredible chemistry I've ever had happened. And it didn't happen because I planned it. Like once I got out of my own way and showed up the way I wanted to be in a relationship and just listened to, just responded to what was there, that's when it happened. It didn't happen because I saw, that would make a good partner for me, like from a
Mhm.
distance. It just happened because my body fucking did it. And that's the thing that isn't so incredible. And I know, John, you had similar experience where it wasn't pre-planned. You didn't think beforehand, no, it just, your body responded to something incredible, chemistry that was there, and you followed that. And that's, I think, the biggest lesson, if I could tell myself, a young 20-year-old, is like, stop strategizing about this shit. Just just fucking listen to your body, and when it's there, you're gonna know. It is palpable. It is strong.
This gets into that issue that came up, the thing that came up with even in the, oddly enough, the serial killer episode about integrating the feminine, because what you're talking about there is allowing, right? You're talking about stopping this masculine planning, looking, doing, da 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 da, all this shit that's external or whatever, and you're now receiving. And that's really a piece too, to me, about that openness to, the thing you're talking about with the reverence for the real reverence for the goddess. You know what I
Right.
mean? Is because
Right.
you're actually ready to bow before her and receive that from her. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
Yeah.
That's a great fucking point, because like what that calls to mind is when I teach my male friends to dance.
Yeah.
What inevitably ends up happening with so many straight guys is they're really uncomfortable with accessing their pelvis. It's not in this performative thrust thing. It's like if they just have to like live in their pelvis and move it, and like if you as a straight guy, if you just like give into the music, you look ridiculous. You look like you're out of control, and everybody's like, "Fuck this!" Like, you look dumb. But if you're a
Yeah.
straight guy and you want to dance, you have to have a feminine energy in you and a masculine energy holding that
Yep.
feminine energy. So like,
Yep.
like your head and maybe your shoulders are like in a certain kind of control, and then moving your hips with intention into the music. It's like you have to have those both in you. And so yeah, it's like the inner feminine. Like men have to like it sounds like it is the feminine, and yet at the same time, it's like not, the experience of it is not like sentimental or
Right.
feminizing or whatever it is. It actually, you feel like when you're like like doing some kind of partner dance, and you're leading your partner, gently guiding your partner, like that's real male energy. And to have that in yourself, you're not going to find your polarity out externally unless you've got that in yourself.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think I have a good amount of masculine energy as like a
Mhm, mhm.
self-pres 3. So I think I also had to go through um integrating my feminine to really get there, because
Mm.
that's like when I met Brian, like I kind of had started integrating my feminine like a little bit before that, and like my kind of almost like maternal instincts and all that sort of started coming up. And then I met Brian and I was like, it all clicked.
Interesting.
So yeah, I definitely relate to that too.
Yeah, this is pushing into some interesting areas, and I feel like this is just scratching the surface on where we could go with this, because this
Yeah.
is
There's a
fucking
lot
interesting
here.
as this
Yeah.
shit. Yeah, there's a lot going on here.
At some point, I might want to go into my spiel, but it's so multifaceted, and I'm going to get lost as a 9 in my own story. But
It doesn't have to make it on. It doesn't have to make it on the episode, but I still want to hear it.
I want to hear it. I do have to go for my 7
Yeah.
o'clock thing.
yeah, let's do it
Okay.
on the next one, because I want to do a whole
Yeah.
spiel and see if
That'd
I
be
can
cool.
find
Okay.
myself.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
like that.
That would
Yeah,
that'd be great.
because I've got a really fucking weird history, and it'd be
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I want to do that.
You don't
and,
say.
like, and I think that people's feedback and discussion from this will be really interesting.
Yeah.
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 Cool. This is great.
All right. Yeah. This
Yeah,
this
that's
is great.
The
I don't.
best
I probably won't.
podcast.
You should also add a little snippet to tell people to call in about their reactions to this and see if anybody does.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a great idea for like love line stuff. Like, what are your impressions, or what are your experiences with this
Yeah.
stuff? Try to keep
Yeah.
be like try to keep it not too long, but we want to hear about your stories and things like this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think people would be interested to talk about this.
Yeah,
Okay.
adventures and intimacy.
All right.
All right,
All right, guys.
Bye.
later.
Talk to you.
Bye.
Okay.